Hello, today we are going to do a complete walkthrough from beginning to end on creating a storefront template in PressWise. This is going to be a longer video because I am going to go into a lot of details talking about things you should consider when you're doing a template, talking about a lot of the settings and how they function. So you can skip around. I'll have some timestamps in the description to make this a little bit easier for anybody. But again, I will have a file that you can download and walk through the training with me. So this is a really good training video for anybody wanting to learn how to set up templates in PressWise. So to get started, let's go to PressWise. And the first thing I want to look at is details regarding the product that I'm trying to set up. We're going to be setting up a business card product today. So the most important details we need to know is the bleed size of the product in PressWise. So this 3.5 by 2-inch business card, the bleed size is 3.625 by 2.125. And the reason why this is important is it makes things a lot easier down the line when you're uploading stuff. So when you're exporting your artwork for PressWise, you just want to make sure you're matching those dimensions. So 3.625 is hidden and then 2.125. So this business card document that I'm going to use to set up is already set up the correct size for me. And we'll see down the line why that makes things so easier. The next thing I want to talk about is all your different assets for your template. It's great to get those together first before you start designing, because if not, you're going to have to stop in the middle of designing to go get assets, and it makes things a little less efficient. So there's three main things you're worried about: visual assets, that could be logos, that could be the full background image of the design, those kind of things. The other asset is your fonts. And it's really important that your font, you own the licensing to, and you actually have the physical font file. So if you are using Adobe fonts to do design work, but you don't actually have the downloadable file to do the design work, you won't be able to use those same fonts in PressWise on storefront templates. So just make sure that if you're designing or you're working with a designer that's building stuff for the storefront, they're using fonts that you have the physical files for. The last thing that you need to know is just the colors being used in your design. We will specifically need those for text objects, and just documenting what those colors are is super useful. It makes things a lot easier down the line and faster. Now, when we are building a template, we want to think about what things do we want to have to be static that the user cannot edit, and what things we want the user to be able to edit. In this case, on this business card design, I want the user to be able to put in their name, their title, their phone number, their email, and maybe put in a different URL or what this little tagline of services that is offered. With that in mind, we're going to output two files. So we're going to output a file of the design completely intact, and that is going to help us find the position of where everything goes. And then we're going to output a second file that is blank. So we have the editable fields missing. We will start with this full design to get everything in position. And then once that is completed, we will hide these editable fields. And then the only thing you will see is the actual fields that you can change. Don't get too lost in the sauce right now. We will get into those details later. So we've got our product, we've got our assets ready. Now let's get into actually building the template. The easiest way to create a template in PressWise is going to the customer that you want the template to be stored in. And then from the customer page, you're going to click on this catalog button. I won't get in the nitty gritty of all the different categories you can have in catalogs, but I will get into, we're going to work just from the My Document section. I'm going to click Manage Template, and I want to create a new template. So by default, PressWise is asking you to add in an existing template. We don't have a template built yet. So we're going to click this New button here. And we're going to give the template a name. So I'm just going to call it Business Card. And then you can give it a caption. The caption is just a description. You don't have to. It's not necessary. So now you see that PressWise has created this template. And that template comes with an ID. This is what I want to get first, was this template ID. So I'm going to right click and copy this, because we're going to use this when we upload assets. So the next thing that we need to do is now upload the visual assets for the template. So I'm going to go back to the customer number by clicking on it in that upper corner. And then I'm going to click on the asset button here. To upload assets, you just click add, and you can click the choose file and browse, or the other thing you can do is drag and drop into the assets. So I'm going to drag and drop the version that has the text on it. So this version, and I'm going to name it after the design ID. So I'll do ID, and then we have 1651. And I like to do this so that later on, if I'm going to clean up my system, knowing that this asset is in use with a template makes things a lot easier. And just give it a description. And then we'll click add new here. And now you can see that it's created the asset. We'll come back here later, but this ID is what we are really after we upload it. But we'll get into that once we start building the template. The next thing that you're going to have to do is upload the fonts if the fonts are not already in the system. So to do that, you're going to click on admin here, and then you're going to go to fonts manager. From the fonts manager, you're going to click add new font. You're going to give the font a name. So Source Sans Bold. And then you can give it a category. It's not really necessary. Sometimes I'll give it a category of like sans serif or a description of what it is. Same thing for the font type. You can, put the font in a certain bucket if you want to, but these don't really need to be filled out. So I skip over them. So I would do Source Sans Bold and drag it in here, or same thing, you could click choose file and go through your browser to find it. And then click the add button. I'm not going to add it here because I've already added them into the system. So if I search Source Sans, I've already added the fonts that we're going to use today for this setup. But if you haven't and you're following along, just make sure that you add each one of the fonts that is provided to you in that setup folder. So now that we have all the fonts added, we can start building the template. So to do that, you're going to click on customers, and you're going to navigate back to the customer that you are trying to build the template on. We're going to click on catalog. And then one thing I want to update before I start editing the design ID is I'm going to go here, and I'm going to put the ID in here as well. So ID, and then here's the ID up here. So 1651. The reason why I do this is because when the order gets placed, this ID 61 will be put in the description, so you'll know what template the customer used when they placed the order. I have found that makes things so much easier when something goes wrong or something breaks. So maybe the customer places the order and you realize, oh, this template is missing certain finishing tasks. So it's not charging the customer the right amount of money. You can quickly go, well, this is ID 1651, so I'll go fix that ID so that in the future this doesn't happen again. But once we have that ID name updated, we're going to click on the actual thumbnail here. It's going to open up the editor. You might see this error message. Just ignore it for now. This is just kind of a something they're working on fixing at the moment. And we're going to go through kind of some of the settings. So up here, you've got some major controls. You can save the design, copy it, view it in a PDF format. The from CSV is like a merging functionality, but that's more advanced stuff. That will be a whole different video. You have the ID. I'm going to leave that alone because I like what it is. This comment is just a description about the item internally. And then you have your units, so you can design in inches, millimeters, or points. I'm from the US, so I'm going to stick with inches. Your product type, so in this case, this is a printed product that we're going to get. And I'm looking for a business card, so I'm going to click on the product drop down, and you can actually search here. So do business card. And from here, it gives you the bleed size and the cut size. So remember, we talked about this bleed size being important. And we can switch it to portrait or landscape from here, but we're doing a landscape design. Page layout, I just leave the default settings. The horizontal design, what this does is what the user sees is when they're designing, the design image will be on the right, and then their fields will be on the left side. Variable data, same thing. This is a whole separate video. It's very advanced features on the Storefront system. I'm not going to get into it. I just leave it in auto. And then the description is something that the customers will see on this front end if you want to give additional details about the item here. I skip over this. I don't really ever use this field very much. So the center that you see here, this is a live view of the design as we're working on it. You'll see that it gets updated. You can obviously zoom, you can undo stuff you've done and redo stuff, and you can show borders. And borders are really helpful when we start to get into text, adding text boxes. So I'm going to turn that off for now. And then on the right are some major controls over the template. So the template properties are what we're seeing right here. We will talk about the checkout options in a minute, but then you will see the pages here. So there's kind of a section for all the pages. And then below that is the layers that you have on the page. So we're going to get started right away and click on the first page. And the first thing that we want to do is add the image background. So I'm going to click on image here. It's going to add a new layer. And from here, I'm going to go over here and browse. Click browse. And it opens up the default ID that pops in there, which is 17. We want to find that asset we uploaded earlier. So click on show all. And you can scroll through here and figure out wherever you uploaded that asset. I know I uploaded it to Unlucky Umbrella Studios, which is down here near at the bottom. You can also do like a Command F to search or a Control F to search for whoever you're looking for. But once we find the folder that the asset is in, the customer folder, we will click the edit button to open the folder. And here's our asset. So this ID is what we need, this 1648. We're going to copy that. We don't need this window anymore, so I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to paste that number in here. And what you'll see is PressWise will automatically update this thumbnail. And it's got the box here, but it's not quite set up correctly. There's some other settings we'll talk about here in a second, but to fix this right away, what you want to do is set the width and height to that width and height we had for the product, which is 3.625, and then the height is below, which is 2.125. So now the size of the document is set up correctly, but it's not in the right position. To get it in the right position, we set it to 0, 0. And the reason why this is so easy is because we set up that PDF correctly. So we set it up with bleed, but no crop marks. Some of the other settings that we have here are clip method. This is more relevant if you have the customer like uploading their own stuff. PressWise does have a little tooltip here that goes into more detail of how they work, but some of them will stretch the image to make it fit in the box size that you give it. Some will only stretch one dimension till the first dimension hits it. There is clip, and clip is the one that is the default and works most of the time for what you're doing. What it does is if the image is any bigger than the size that I give it, it just cuts the image off. Down here is the image picker. We're not going to use it, but it does allow you to have an image picker option for customers. So say you want them to be able to swap out background images or background colors. That's kind of how the image picker can be used. There are some options down here. Do we want the individual to be able to upload their own artwork? We do not in this case. This is a branded business card for a specific customer. We don't want anybody to change that background image. Do you want to hide the image in the final PDF? This can be useful if you want to show customers where, say, like a score line. So you could put a image asset on here that shows a score line down the middle, but then when they place the order, that score line is removed for you, so your final artwork is print ready. And then required is not relevant here because we're not letting them upload, but this would just require the user to upload something if we wanted to. So our image is here. I've made some changes, so I'm going to go ahead and save. So I recommend saving often as you can, so that you don't lose any of the work that you do. But when you save, it resets you at the template properties. So we'll have to click on the page first. Now we have our layers. So now I don't want this PressWise.com website. So I'm just going to get rid of this container by clicking on the container and trashing it. I'm hitting OK. And same thing. I don't need this container text. I'm going to trash it. OK. Now we're ready to start adding the text. So I want to add the name first. And let's talk a little bit more about containers, container text, and text. So the text functionality is depreciated, and what that means is it's no longer supported. It's still there because there are a lot of legacy PressWise users that are using these in all of their templates, so PressWise doesn't want to get rid of it. But it also means that if there are any bugs, PressWise is not going to further support fixing those bugs. What they recommend using is container and container text. And the best way I can describe a container is like a text box. So like this box here is a container, and we have our text in here, which would be our container text. So just to jump into it so you can see how it works, we're going to click plus container here. And you can see it's made a container. And the container isn't really in the right position or anything, but we'll worry about that once we add our first layer of container text. So the container text we're going to add next, and this is going to be our name. So we're going to update the UI to say name. So UI is just user interface. This is what the user will see. It will say the word name above the field that they fill out. Max length, you can set character lengths limits if you want. I don't really recommend it unless you have to because of the way the design is. And then UI lines. A UI line is a user interface line. So say this is the name box. This is considered a one-line UI box. A two-line box would be able to show you 2 lines of text. So really one line will work for a lot of the stuff you're doing, but occasionally you may need to have a 2-line UI text box. The text content here, I'm going to put my name so that I can make it fit and match this later on. The text transform, you have some options between uppercase, lowercase, and capitalization. We don't need to do that here. The font, since we've uploaded it, I should be able to find it. It should be Source Sans Bold. And then the font size I'm going to pull from InDesign. So it's 12 points. And then it is 14.4 points on the leading. So 12, and then I want 14.4 here. Horizontal scaling, this is stretching your text, and then tracking is adding space between your characters. We don't need any of that stuff. You may need to use this sometimes just to make it look closer to what maybe a designer has done. We don't need small caps. It needs to be left aligned. Text picker acts very similar to the image picker. You can put in a bunch of different text options that the user can pick from. Where I see this used the most is addresses. So if you have a client that has multiple locations and they order business cards for all of those locations, you could put the different locations in the text picker. The text color. I have this in that document that you'll download, that zip folder document if you're following. But this color is 53, 68, 0, and 0. And this specific color is a Pantone. So I'm going to actually put in Pantone 265C. We don't need a stroke. Fit method clip. This would just cut the text off if it goes beyond the container box that we have. So I want to switch this to auto. And what this will do is it will shrink the text so that it fits within the container. Sometimes that works, but sometimes that doesn't work. You'll really have to kind of play around to figure out what setting makes the most sense for your clients. Auto adjust. This feature is still a little buggy. I don't use it. I just let the auto scale my text. This is supposed to give you more control over how the text scales so that it doesn't get too small. But I have not had the best of luck with this, so I just use the auto feature. And then the tooltip feature that just lets you add something like what PressWise has when they do a tooltip. Where is there? I thought they had a tooltip. It's like a call out. So you can hover over the tooltip and it gives them additional information on maybe how to fill out the form. Field options down here. We do want to require this. We don't want them to leave the name blank and place orders. And for this one, I do want to append the name to the memo field. I've found for business cards, appending the name to the memo field makes it nice because then if the customer wants to do an exact reprint, it's very easy to find those orders because you can search by the individual's name. We don't want to lock the field because we want them to be able to change it. And we don't want to hide the text because we want it in the artwork. We won't talk about expressions yet, but we will get into expressions when we do the phone number and the email. So now I'm going to, I don't need to save this, but I do need to know this number here, this 103, because we need to add this container text into the container. I'm going to click on the container and I'm going to add the reference for that container text. So to do that, you do 2 open square brackets, lowercase t, 103, and 2 closing square brackets. And what you should see is when this refreshes, it populates with the name. Oh, my name is here. So we got a couple problems. The box is too small. We can change the container box size right here with the width. So I'm going to change the width to 1.5 for now. See if that's going to be big enough. Probably not when we start to look at this line right here. So I'm actually going to make it 2 inches. And then I know I need the height to be bigger too. So I'm going to go 1.5 inches there. And now what I really like about this is you can drag the container where you want. And now looking at it, I do see some problems. This is pretty close to the cut line. So I'm going to make this box a little bit shorter so that if somebody's name is a little too long, it doesn't get cut off. So we're going to make the width 1.75. Oh, and that's still too short here. So I need to, and sometimes you got to play with it, do 1.8. There we go. This might fit. Hopefully it will fit. Fingers crossed. The height is a little on the tall side. I don't think I can shrink it from here. Yeah, I want to do 1.25. And changing the height may, move this. And that's completely fine because we will just position that back in the area. We might need to make it a touch bigger. We will get there when we add these 2 last items. But there's the first and last name has been added. So now we're ready to do the owner founder. So the title. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to copy. So I'm going to click on 103. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to verify that I want to copy it. And now you can see I'm working on 104. This is going to be the title. And then I don't need to increase or have a max text length or UI lines. I'm going to put in owner founder here so that it matches. And I believe this is italic. And I'm going to check in InDesign. This is 10 points and 12 point leading. We're going to go back down to 10 and we're going to go to 12 here. Then I don't need to change any of these settings. I don't need a text picker, but I do need to change the color. The color for this one is 324200. And then this is Pantone 2645C. I'm not going to change any of these settings. I am going to require it. I'm not going to append it to the memo. I only want the name appended to the memo. I don't want to lock it or hide it. And the expressions aren't relevant here. Now I'm going to add this into the container. So I'm going to click on the container. I've got the end of T103. I'm going to hit the enter button to start a new line, 2 opening brackets, lowercase t. This is critical. Make sure your t's are lowercase or it won't pull it. And then go 104 and then close because I'm pulling 104, which is the title. And there it goes. It populated perfectly into place. Now we're going to do the phone number and the email. There'll be 2 separate line items as well. I'm going to save just because I've done some changes. I don't want to lose those changes if I lose my internet or whatever. Remember, when you save changes, it takes you back to the template properties. So you need to click on the page and then you can start working within it. I'm going to click on the owner founder text. I'm going to copy it, hit OK. And now I'm working on 105. So this one is going to be phone number, right? I don't need max length or UI lines. I'm going to put in the phone number, which is 123 456 7890. The font is actually Source Sans regular here. And let me verify the size and leading. The size is 9, 10.8 leading. 9. We're going to go just to 10 and see how that looks. The text color is 80% gray, and it is not a Pantone color, so I'm going to remove that spot name. And I'm going to require this field. I don't want to append it, I don't want to lock it, and I don't want to hide it. But there is an expression I want to put, and what expressions do is it makes sure that the user follows a very specific format. Very useful for phone numbers and email fields. I'm going to click on this phone number expression that PressWise has pre-built. And the other thing I want to do is give it an error message. So if the user makes a mistake, what do I want to tell them? So please format the phone number like so. And then we do. And this is just so that it clarifies for the users what they were doing wrong. The way this works is you can even text the expression to see how this functions. But if the user was to type the phone number like this, the proper way, you will see that it will say it matches. But say the user types the format of the phone number this way instead, you'll get a no match. So any no match will throw this error to tell the user to fix the formatting. You close that, and now we're going to add this text that we have set up all correctly into the container. So click on new container. We're going to do 2 line breaks because I have this extra space in here. And open brackets, lowercase t, 105, closing square brackets. And it looks like that lined up pretty perfectly. Now we're going to add the email. Same thing, it's just easiest to copy. So I'm going to click on the phone number. I'm going to copy it. Yes, I'm working on 106. So I'm going to update this to say email. And then I'm going to update the text content to say info@allenmuffyumbrella.com. No text transform. Oh, actually, in this case, I want the email to be lowercase. I don't want them to be able to put uppercase letters. Looks like it's the same size, so I'm going to keep all the same information here, same color. Nothing else really needs change. I do want to require it. I don't want to append it, lock it, or hide it. But I do want to use an expression to make sure that they're formatting the email correctly. And for this one, I'm going to say, please use a proper email format. And now I need to add it to the container. I'm going to go here, 2 opening brackets, T, 106, 2 closing brackets. And you can see that lined up pretty good. It's not perfect, and I wouldn't get caught up in making it perfect. Close is normally good enough for just about everybody. As long as it's very close and they can't tell the difference, I wouldn't get too lost in the sauce. Now I need to make this website, so I'm going to copy this one, hit OK. Now I'm working on 107, so I'm going to do website. And then I'm going to type in the website here, which I have most of it from the email. Leave that lowercase. Am I going to change any of these settings? The color is still the same. I'm not going to require this. I'm actually going to lock it because I don't want the user to be able to change the website. And I don't need to do an expression, so we're ready to add it to the container. So click on the container. We do 2 line breaks again. 107. And now you can see that the leading here doesn't look quite right, and you can play around with some stuff to fix that. Normally, if it's line breaking doesn't feel right, playing around with the leading on the item that you're having trouble with can sometimes solve that problem. I'm just going to increase the leading a touch. One more. There we go. So that kind of fixed it. Now, last thing is this little tagline that we have here. I'm going to copy the website that I just did. And one thing to notice about this tagline is for some reason I have it almost all italic except for the last few letters. So those aren't going to line up, but we will fix that on the setup here. So I'm just going to call this like services, and we're going to call it marketing and operations consulting. All the settings I'm going to leave the same. We might need to play with the leading a little bit. Might need to go back down to 10. Actually, I'm going to just do that. I'm going to make this 10. Color and everything is correct. All this is correct. I just want to lock it because I don't want somebody else to be able to edit it. This all looks good. So now we can go to the container and add that last line in. So T 108 and 2 closing brackets. So I'm not seeing it. And I think part of that is because the container box is too small. So let's make the container a touch bigger. So 1.4. It's probably going to shift everything around, but that's fine. We can reposition it. Yeah, there it is. So if you see, it's going to, wonder if I can just, oh, I have it set to lowercase. So this isn't looking correct because I'm forcing it to be lowercase. I don't want it to be lowercase. Let's see if that fixes it. So I've got marketing and operations, but I'm missing the consulting side. And the letting's a little goofy, so I'm gonna add a little space there. That looks better. And also this shouldn't be regular, it should be italic. So a lot of this is just playing around with fixing problems. There we go. That looks much better. This is goofy because my last couple letters on the template were regular instead of italic. I've done a lot of work here, so let's save it so we don't lose that. And then we need to add the second page. So we're going to insert a blank page now. And we need to add an image. Same thing, we want to browse here. And from browsing here, we want to show all. Find the folder we want to open. In my case, it's at the very bottom here. Unlucky umbrella. And I want to make sure I add 1648. So I'm going to copy that. I'm adding 1648. So I need to add the second page. And PressWise doesn't automatically know that there's a second page. So one way to kind of get it to jostle loose so you can see the second page is just navigate to another page, go back to this one, and then click on the image again. So now there's a button here that says page index. I switch that to 2, and now it's added the back page. And again, we need to update the position to 0, 0 for your XY position. And then we need to update the width and height to the size of the product, including bleed. And this back image is going to be the same for everybody. So I'm going to make sure that the allow public upload is not on, but everything else here looks good. So the design is done. The one thing we do need to swap out here is instead of having the image that has the text on it, I need to upload an image that does not have the text on it. So I'm going to click browse here, and I'm going to replace this image with my PDF that is blank. So this one you can see everything's the same except I've removed all the text that I've added on PressWise. So in this folder, I'm going to just drag over my file. You can also browse to find it. And then I'm going to hit save. And it might break the thumbnail. That's okay. PressWise is a cloud-based system, so if anything breaks, a refresh typically solves the problem. I'm going to click save here. So that it's going to refresh this. I'm going to come over here. And again, it's kind of stuck. Here it knows that it should be blank, but I can still see it's pulling the old version. To jostle something loose in PressWise, sometimes you just got to switch back from one to the other. And now that should fix the problem. There we go. Now our design is completely done. Now we can get into the settings. So from here, we want to click on checkout options. You're going to have a lot of options in the system, but every option has this functionality called access. This gives the customer either no access, so they don't see the setting at all, read access, where they can see what you have chosen for them, or read write access, which allows the customer to pick themselves from a list of options that you've provided to them. So we'll talk about all the access here, but you can do that for your inks, you can do it for your press, the substrate the customer can pick, and the quantity. My recommendation is always going to be less is best. Give your customer the least amount of options. That makes your job easier. It ensures that your customer is less likely to make mistakes that then they may argue and say that you have to pay for. Less is best. So give them very little to see and very little to choose from. That is how you make your shop efficient. So for this particular business card, we do need to add front and back inks. So under the front inks, I'm going to put 4 because we're going to do 4 color process. And I don't need to add any other option. But if I wanted to, I could put 1 so that, the customer could pick between 1 and 4. But I only need 4. So to get rid of the 1, you just click on it and minus it out. Need to do the same thing for back inks. So I'm going to do 4 here, click this plus sign, and now I have 4 inks. I don't want the customer to see 4 over 4. Most customers don't know what that means. So just giving them that information may cause them more confusion than less. Next, we're going to talk about finishing tasks. So we're going to add finishing device and tasks. This is going to be different based off of how your system is set up. So what finishing tasks you have, how you charge for things is going to be different. I always recommend cutting and packing. Most jobs have cutting and packing in them, so you should be charging customers for cutting and packing. So we're going to do add device. I'm going to find the cutting. We're going to pick the cutting here. And then I want to set my default method to cutting. So that just makes it so that I don't want the customer to pick. I'm not going to give them any access. There are no options for cutting. Options are just an extra level of detail on your finishing tasks. But once I've set the default, I'll hit save. You'll see my defaults will be in red. If you have more than one option of, say, cutting, you will see the other options in black. We also want to pack. So I want to go here and we're going to look for boxing is what they call it in their system. I'm just going to do normal cut and box. Default method is cut and box. There's no options to choose from. And the access, I don't want the customer to be able to see this either. That's finishing. You can add as many as you need. Then we're going to get into the press ID. I'm going to print this on the Indigo. Add it. Same thing. You could add more than one press, but I don't want to give the customer access. I don't want them to pick what press it's printing on. I don't think the customer cares what press it's printing on. So I'm just going to skip over giving them any access. Leaving it blank means the customer won't see it. Substrate, you can add as many substrates as you want. Again, less is best in my opinion. I'm going to tell this customer they get to print on 130-pound endurance, and that's it. And this one, I think I do want the customer to see. I want them to see what paper it's getting printed on. Quantity, you have a couple options here. Default is when the customer first goes to add it to the cart, it's the default quantity, and then they can update it if you give them the option to update it. In this case, I want to try to upsell the customer. So I do sell business cards in 250, 500, 750, and 1,000, but I want to see if I can get them to buy the 500 quantity because that's a little bit of an upsell for me. Their minimum quantity is 250, and then I need to add all those options in here. So I got to do 250 plus 500 plus 1,000 plus, or I'm sorry, 750 plus and 1,000. So here are all the options, and I want the client to be able to pick from those options, so I need to set the access to read write. Padding is for products that you are actually padding, like notepads. That's not relevant here, so we're going to leave it all blank. And then we have the miscellaneous flag settings. So in enable user profile data, this is more of an advanced feature. You may use it for business cards, but I would say read the KB article on this. You won't really need this for most products, so leaving it off is fine. Enable the address book data, same thing. You're likely not going to use this for very many template designs, so just leaving it off will be fine. Skip customization. What that will do is skip over the page that lets the customer like input information. I see this a lot for inventory pull stuff. So if you are doing a lot of pick and packing in your shop, you would probably turn this on for storefront products that are pick and pack products. No auto new. This is for PressWise's Watchdog. What the Watchdog does is whenever a storefront order comes in, there is a process that can automate the order from injection into injection. So it will look to see if the artwork is there. It'll make sure that there's payment if that's necessary. It will make sure there's nothing else missing on the product or the order before it puts it into production for your team. So most of the time you want PressWise automating stuff, but say you need to outsource this product. So if this is like a product that you buy from another shop and then ship on behalf, the no auto new might be good because that will then flag for your team that some other action needs to be taken before it can go into production. In this case, we're producing in-house, so I'm going to leave the no auto new off because I want PressWise to automatically put it in production for me. Split PDF on ordered injection is exactly what it sounds like. Say you have a customer and they upload like 20 versions of business cards all at the same time in the same PDF file. What this will do is make each version its own line item. And when you can have each version as its own line item, it makes batching all those versions together on one sheet way easier. And then folded is just to let PressWise know, is this product folded or not? It's not. That affects page count as well. These are all the settings for the checkout option. So let's save the design. Now our design is saved and we can close this. Now we can get into testing it. So what you can see here is we're on the back end still, but it's showing us what the thumbnail looks like now that we've built it. to test it, you'll want to go back to the customer and you'll want to scroll down to your users. And I always like to have like a test user or, some sort of user to test products out when I'm making storefront stuff. That way my clients don't get emails on test orders. But once you log in as the test user, and in case you missed that, I just click this little login icon. You will click on catalog, and now I can see my design here. I'm going to click on it, and now I can fill out the information. So I'm going to go Jane Doe, and Jane is a marketing assistant. And the phone number, I'm going to mess up the phone number so we can see how that function works. So I have not formatted the phone number correctly. When I go to click on email, you will see I'm getting an error right now saying like, please format the phone number correctly. So let's do that. And now you can see that's fine. I can put in an email. I'm going to put in another email here. And from there, I can't move forward to the next step until I refresh this graphic. But you can see now I have Jane's information. We have the phone number has been updated. The email has been updated. Everything looks good. They can even see the back of it. They can download PDF proofs. There is a setting in PressWise where you can put a watermark over this too. We don't have it on this system right now. But once the proof looks good, I'm going to click proceed to order. And here's the page where we had picked let me show you what this looks like on the back end. The checkout options. So here's our checkout options now. So I've got my quantity at 500 because that's what I set for my default. But as the user, I can pick between 250, 500, 750, and 1,000. I'm going to pick 750. You can also see that I can see the substrate stock, but I can't change it. And that is the read accessibility. Whereas all the other functions like the inks, the finishing, and the press ID are not present because I've set them to the blank access, which is the hidden access. Now I can see pricing updates in real time. Perfect. And I can add to cart. What you'll see is there's that memo line. So on the catalog, when we had picked the name, created the name field, down here I said append to memo line. You can see Jane Doe's name is appended to the memo line. I'm going to proceed to checkout, and let's just walk through the checkout process so you can see what it looks like. I always recommend placing orders of templates that you build because then you can also see how the back end is set up and make sure that that's set up correctly too. So I'm going to ship to my address. We've got some turnaround options here. I think standard is fine. And then the shipping options are loading. Those can take longer depending on how many shipping options you have. PressWise is calculating the cost for every single of those options and sorting them into the least expensive to the most expensive. So the more shipping options you provide on a storefront, the little bit longer that's going to take to load. I'm going to do customer pickup because it's free. Click continue. There is a PO and a project name, and this particular customer has settings that we need to have a project name. Whenever I do tests, I always just say like tests don't print. So that if you're testing, your team knows not to print. Hit continue. Here is kind of our last check before we place the order. There is an option for special instructions, and it does have a note though for the customer to let them know if you do special instructions, it could delay production time. And everything looks good, so I'm going to place order. It's processing, and once it's done processing, it will create an order number. So there's my order number. The order's been placed. The client will be notified. They'll get an email saying that their order has been placed. And if I go back to the customer's account page, you can see there's an order here now. I'm going to click on orders, and I can see this order came from the storefront. I'm going to click on the order to look at it. So here's the order. And one of the really cool things about storefront templates when customers place orders with storefront templates is you still have accessibility to edit it. So right here, I can click on this and it's going to show me the template and give me options to update it. So say the customer's like, oh, I messed up the phone number. I can go here and revise the image. So there it's updated it, and I can save it. And now my artwork has been updated with that new phone number. So that is one of the cooler features about it. But you can also see there's my finishing task that we added in the checkout options. It's already been accepted because the client accepted it on the storefront. So I don't need to get approval. Approval's already been done. And you can see it's in the auto new. So if I go to orders here, that order is running through what we call the automated process. And this is the watchdog. So I believe it's every 10 minutes between each piece. So it's in the auto nude right now. Then it'll go into the artwork bucket for 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, it will check to see if there's artwork there. If that's good, it's going to look for data if that's required, like for your mailings. If that's good, checks to make sure payment is good, whether they're on net terms or if they need to pay credit card, stages it and ready, and then it'll inject the job into production. There are other automations in PressWise too, where it will automatically batch it for you, and you can even connect the orders to your FTP server for your press devices, and it will download the files into your FTP server. So that is it. That is kind of a full walkthrough of creating a template in PressWise. If you stuck around this whole time, I really appreciate it. Any kind of engagement, like a like or a comment, is really helpful for me so other people can find me. But if you do have any questions, leave it in the comment section. You can find me on our website. And if anything else comes up, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for sticking around.